Welcome back. This is another episode of the Epoch podcast, episode 21. We are right smack in the middle of the pack, the server party, and we're talking about all things related to multiplayer. With me, as always, is my co-host, Dread.
Hello, this is Dread. In today's video topic, we're going to be going over, of course, the Super Bowl. Oh, wait, wrong one. Never mind. That's tomorrow.
I literally found out today that the Super Bowl is tomorrow. I am super out of it. It's funny that you even make that joke.
I mean, I don't really care about the Super Bowl. I just thought it'd be funny.
Yeah, whoops. All right, so we do have a special guest with us today. We have Raein. Raein, welcome.
Hi.
And Raein, could you give us a little introduction about who you are, what kind of experience you have in Last Epoch?
I like making weird builds and stuff. I'm a CT. And yeah, I just make weird builds and silly interactions and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
So unfortunately, we don't have a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel or anything to advertise for you, but I do know that you've made some builds in the past. So we brought you on specifically. You've been playing a lot with Dread recently in multiplayer, helping him figure out the builds that he wanted to min-max in the past week that we've had. What have you two been up to?
Stealing all of his ideas. No, I'm joking. But no, seriously though, it's a lot to like catch up on. So having someone that actually had some experience on the server beforehand, because like, you know, we didn't want to be on it for obvious reasons. So being able to catch up with everything was really nice. And Raein was one of the people that definitely helped me. It was all by accident too. It was just on accident. That's what's funny about it.
Well, the fact that the patch notes are supposedly like 60, 70, 80 pages long, hopefully those get condensed down at some point. But Dread, you and I still haven't seen those. So we're trying to experiment with a lot of builds, we're doing a lot of reading, but at the end of the day, every once in a while, there's a CT like Raein or somebody in Twitch chat who tells us, by the way, this item over here has a more multiplier on it, or by the way, this thing changed, or by the way, did you know this? We've been doing a lot of learning over the past week. So having the CTs hanging out has been great.
Yeah, it's been a lot of knowledge to understand and try to fit in your brain. And I'm still not finished with all of it still.
I forget about them all the time too. So
sorry, go ahead.
I forget about a lot of the changes too. Like I forgot that Locket has a more multiplier on it until like yesterday. So
Locket.
I mean, you have to run the shield, so of course you forgot about it.
True. Very true.
Wait, is that Locket of the Forgotten Night?
The set bonus gives like more void damage per time route stack.
I've loved finding all the new more damage multipliers on items. We were complaining for a long time over the past years that you didn't get enough damage from your gear, and like too much of your damage, disproportionate amount of damage came from your like, you know, your mastery, your what's the word I'm looking for? The skills that you're respecting into, like the 20 points, 21, 22 points you have. And not enough in the gear itself. So now that we have more multipliers popping up, like on Locket of the Forgotten Night, I don't know if I want to use all three of them. I don't know if I want to give up Bastion just for like a little bit more damage. But I like the idea.
It's definitely tease worthy because it's 24% more damage in the end, and that's more than what's it called? Shoot, the idol. What's it called? That's more than
Singularity.
Singularity, yeah. That's more than Singularity, and
but not quite as much as Throne of Ambition, which is now 40% more damage. So, yeah. All right. So I tried to only have like some loose topics of conversation for the day. I didn't want to like set it in stone, kind of like leave it open, because frankly, there's a ton we could talk about.
I actually had an idea.
Tell me.
Idea about that. I was gonna say what we could talk about our favorite and most like our favorite change and our most disliked change.
How about most disliked change that isn't just a bug, or else I'm just gonna sit here complaining about lunge.
Not a bug. I'm just talking about the actual changes, like the actual changes. I know Raein has a few.
Well, let me think about it. Raein, can you tell me?
My least favorite change, if you want to know, like
yeah, let them know.
How do I put it? I like the ailment change. I think it was healthy for the game. I think a lot of ailments and builds needed that change, and I think the execution of that change might be my single least favorite thing about the patch about the things so far. For certain use cases, there's a lot of items that suffered very heavily, and there's a lot of builds that kind of don't make sense gearing wise anymore. So
you like that ailments were nerfed, but you don't like how they did it?
I don't like the fact that every single skill tree has like 7,000% penetration on it now. That's kind of my issue.
Oh,
Yeah, you can
don't like
explain
that,
it in more
okay.
detail. You can explain it in more detail. We got time, Raein.
Sure. So like they switched so a lot of skill trees had like bleed effect, poison effect, etc. on it, right? And those were pretty important for scaling your poison damage or your bleed damage or whatever kind of damage you felt like dealing. Electrify, yep, that's another really big example of that was hit pretty hard. And the numbers on those effects were kind of high, but usually medium. But now they're all just penetration. They globally went to penetration, where a lot of them could have maybe gone to duration or even chance, or just like a simple, like this skill does 20% more damage with poison or something like that. A lot of those types of things kind of feel a little bit rough around the edges to me. You could even do things like bleeds are faster, poisons are faster. Like there's a lot of space for cool mods to put on ailments, and I feel like just making them all penetration might not have been it was an easy fix, but it might not have been the most effective fix long term.
I feel like I'm a boring person because when you said what's your favorite change or like what's your least favorite change, like I made the joke about lunge, but I started thinking like, okay, what's my least? It's like, well, I like that they nerfed ailments, but they made it so boring because I know Amrathi likes explaining the ailment effect by talking about buckets. And it's kind of a good way about thinking about more multipliers as opposed to increased modifiers. Like increased modifiers all go in one big bucket together, and more modifiers are each a separate bucket. And ailment effect was a bucket, which was basically just a more multiplier, as multiply your base damage, which is what multipliers do. And taking all of that away, like you just remove this more multiplier that's interesting and pops up all over the place, and you replace it with something that you already have tons of. Like you already have tons of shred. You already have, shock. You already have penetration on your amulet. You already have penetration on your gear. Like, why did you take something that was interesting and make it boring? Yeah, I'm with you. It is boring.
Used to get to like maybe 60% pen total on most builds, and now with the ailment stuff, you get to like 600%.
You don't 700%. Need that much penetration. Like you'd rather have something new and interesting and different.
Raein and I were talking about that, and like it's not even the fact if if ailments were the same damage as they were before, all they did was just change the numbers. The obsessively large numbers required to fix the old ailment effect stuff is obscene. Like Raein, you want to explain some of your favorite spots on the tree right now? On skill trees and stuff that showcase the penetration problem.
So if you look at shift, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me this second, but if you look at shift, there's like the bleed for your next ability section.
I'm pulling that up right now.
You're getting like I think 50% penetration and like 50% duration, and then like 200% bleed chance just for that. And then on like Lethal Mirage tree, you have like 40% penetration, and then another node right next to it that gives 50% penetration. All of it physical. It's like it gets a little bit silly after a while.
Yeah,
it adds up really fast. You have Salt the Wound giving you like potentially 100%, 200% penetration depending on how hard you're investing into it. I mean, a lot of penetration on these trees.
It's kind of hard to conceptualize as well. Like 10, 20, 30 penetration makes a lot of sense. But like, what does 600 penetration mean?
Well, the biggest problem is you get most of all that pen from your skills and your gear, right? You can get a lot of pen on gear. Like what is like bleed pen on like where is it? I think it's
on
Sentinel.
On Sentinel
stuff, specifically. I think it goes up to like 60% pen on the prefix or something on tier 5. That is insane. Like if that mod existed before, of course, all the bleed effect and all that would have been an insane modifier, like ridiculous. Like every bleed setup would have ran that. Like let me look here while I'm at it. Where is it? So that ignite, the ignite warpath thing, like now it's 45% pen with ignite, right? There's like Like
Like,
everything.
why would you even bother getting penetration anywhere else?
Yeah, on your
45 is a
gear.
huge number.
Yeah, on the tree on Paladin, it's 49% penetration. Like just from the tree, just from the tree.
Cool.
Yeah, and we don't want them to nerf ailments. I wish, I don't want ailments to be bad, but I just think that like
They should be interesting.
pen, if they wanted to keep it the way it is in terms of numbers, they should remove either the pen on gear or the pen on skills. Like the problem is like either one of them is fine, but both of them combined is like ridiculous, right? Like how much pen you can get. So for instance, if they wanted to fix it, they could just make a lot of these pen numbers into like what? Maybe 10% more damage with bleed or 20% more damage with bleed. And then on the gear is where we get all the pen. Then we can stop complaining about damage not coming from gear because then we get these ridiculous pen numbers, right?
We would still complain. Like, let's be
I
clear
know,
about that.
I know. But you get
Be a step in the right direction.
It would be a step in the right direction because right now it's just absolutely obscene. But yeah,
So-
that's your worst change.
Let me say my best change. You said what's your least favorite change? What's your most favorite change you've seen?
Yeah,
I kind of teased this already. I love seeing more multipliers on gear. That makes me so happy. Like they're not busted. Like they're good numbers. Another example that we saw was Throne of Ambition gives up to 40% more
Yes.
damage, more armor as well. Just that word "more" is so impactful. God, I think there's one more thing. Shattered Chains, which is a unique belt
Yeah,
that drops
Shattered
from
Chains.
Robus.
Amazing.
It's like
Also,
5% more melee
yeah.
damage per stack of Doom on the enemy. Like, yeah, great. 15% more damage is not going to break anything, but it's exciting and I like it.
What are you going to say, Ray?
Oceron,
Yeah,
or however you
Oceron.
pronounce that. Yeah, Oceron.
Yeah, 1% more damage per shock stack. Yes, Ocherons. Ocherons. It's global too. You can use that on anything. You could use it on a non-shock build. Like it's nuts. Ocheron is definitely one of those rings that if you have the room, you're gonna throw it on. And I like that because it's rare. Like how rare is it now? It seems really rare right now.
It was pretty
I know,
uncommon in the
it's
past.
Descendants, pretty common, but
Oh, okay. Because I haven't seen one yet, so
I don't think it's like super common. I just know that the last 6 runes of Ascendance I've used trying to get the new ring have been
yeah.
Oceron, or I can't pronounce
Look
it.
at this guy with the RNG.
Not
All right,
to
Dread,
pause our conversation,
Yeah, go
but
ahead.
Rain, you want to explain our journey trying to figure out what the bug was with the runes of ascendance?
So there's a
Oh.
bug of some kind now. It's not consistent, but you can. Let's see, how do I put this nicely? You can borrow your runes of ascendance from your party members and not give them back.
Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Yes,
Is that
in
why
some
sometimes they
situations.
disappear and sometimes you have extras?
So yeah, if you use a rune of ascendance and for some reason it didn't consume one, your party member you just yoinked one from a party member potentially. We've kind of been aware of this bug in CT land for a little while. I've been trying to pin it down for a while, and I never managed to actually capture like the instance of it happening. But then on stream with Dread, we were playing with 3 people, and we specifically saw it happening. So we all just stopped there, grabbed the logs, and made the bug report posts, and like, oh, it's finally going to go away. I can party with people without having to be suspicious of them trying to steal my stuff.
I love it. That's pretty good. Okay.
Item gifting, more like item stealing. Let's go.
Let's go. Looks like the game's not dead after all.
All right. So to continue our topic here, I'll talk about my favorite change.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's a very small one, very minute one, but I think it's a testament to about almost 3 years of complaining. So I like playing Necromancer now in the last Epoch. I've been playing it a lot more than a lot of other people. And one of the biggest problems with Necromancer in general, or minion builds, is the lack of abilities to teleport your minions around. Because that's how PoE gets around bad minion AI. It's just giving you a button to teleport them to you. And that makes it feel so much better. They could have okay AI, but being able to move them when you want to, it's great. And I have been complaining forever about not having convocation, and they finally gave it to us in the in Summon Skeletal Mage. There is a node that lets you teleport alongside your minions up to 9, and It's so nice. I've been messing with it a lot, and I don't know if I could play a necromancer build that can't utilize that because it's just so strong. Actually being able to move things with
it's a
you.
good feeling skill too. Like it's not clunky, it
Yeah.
doesn't get in the way, it doesn't have weird animations to it. Just like it's basically feels like transplant, but your
Yeah, it
minions come with
does.
you. It feels great.
It feels amazing, and like I've been addicted to playing like any kind of build right now that can utilize it properly, and it's definitely going to be one of my favorite things when point 0.9 comes around.
A cool little tech for that, by the way. If you're playing a Hungering Souls build and you have transplant specs, fun fact: the maximum number of skeleton mages by default is 3.
So as long as
Isn't
you
that
make sure they
interesting?
stay alive, you're good to go.
Well, you're
And-
moving around in the boss fight anyway. You're already going to be teleporting around. So
And
if one
also
dies,
the-
get it back pretty
yeah.
quick.
And also the nerfs to
skeletons.
transplant definitely make you want to use it more too.
I'm not sure. Transplant, I don't think was nerfed that badly. I know that
I mean the
for
nerfs
certain
to its
builds that was
damage.
nerfed, but for other builds,
Yeah.
like the build I'm playing now, I think it has like a 3,000% damage effectiveness. It's insane.
Yeah.
It like chunks bosses. It feels so good.
I mean, I just
Yeah.
love that they put frenzy and haste on transplant for lich builds. It feels
Yeah.
very, very good.
It's a nerf / buff on that. It's a nerf in terms of stacking that cast speed on already giving you frenzy from different sources, but it's a buff in terms of giving you movement speed. So I'm always for that. So I like that. I like it when they turn buffs into like these stacking buffs into just sources of certain kinds of non-stacking buffs, so they can kind of just pepper it everywhere, right, on the trees and all that, and not have
Getting
to worry about
frenzy in different
people.
places. Yep.
Yeah, not have to worry about people stacking everything on top of each other. Now, all right. So I've talked about my most favorite change, Perry. What's your most hated change of the patch so far?
Well, I copped out. I still Rain's most hated change.
Okay.
Like the ailment change, like it was a good change, but it's boring. And I don't
All right.
like boring. I like making
Then
decisions. I like.
What's
Yeah,
your
go ahead.
most favorite change then, Rain?
I don't think. I guess so. It's a kind of a weird one. There's a new node in the Judgment Tree that gives you fire penetration per healing effectiveness for the melee portion only. And while that node is and like trying to do melee judgment is still probably not in the best spot in the world. It's better with the gloves, but it's still kind of tricky. The fact that that node exists makes me happy because that's like I think the first true stat stacker in last Epoch. Like in PoE land, obviously we have stat stackers where it's like you stack int and you're turning your intelligence into like 15 different you usually get like 5 to 6 different offensive layers out of that one stat, and then they kind of feels like garbage, and then you finally get past that 1500 1600 threshold and everything just explodes and it feels amazing. And last Epoch, you only got like 2, sometimes 3 layers of kind of multiplicative stuff out of one attribute. But with the Judgment melee's hit specifically, you actually can get, I think, 4 or 5, and that's getting you, like, once you get to like that 120, 130 attunement threshold, it starts to feel really crazy. And I kind of like that exists in the game a lot.
Or stat stackers.
Skills. Yeah, we've seen a lot of skills that have like stacking stats as a payoff for them. We've had like vitality being added into Devouring Orb, like as long as you have 90 or more, one of your multipliers gets doubled. We've seen intelligence stackers being added onto unique items. I love all that kind of stuff. It changes how you want to gear your character.
Well, what I like about the stat stackers is like the problem that we always have with like the gear not mattering. Like stat stackers gear actually matters. Like you're playing a Morning Frost build, you add an extra 20 to 40 dexterity, you actually feel it. It feels, you feel it on your negative phys res, but like you also feel it in terms of damage and stuff and all that. So it's like I like the stat stuff because getting like an exalted stat on like a piece of gear, it's really cool because like you can luck into it and slam it onto a 1 LP, unique that you're using, right? All of a sudden that unique is giving you an insane amount of stats and stuff like that. I really appreciate. But now, of course, we get to talk about the things I hate, the things I get to complain about now. Let me see here. I have like 3 different things.
So
and
let
I
me
have
pull
to
up my notepad document of all the complaints.
Yeah, let me look at my characters here real quick and remember which one was the worst time. Oh, because like I'm trying to figure out something that was an actual change and not intentional, like the lunch stuff, like you were saying, that was very painful. But I think the most annoying change out of every single skill tree that I've seen is the introduction of the Rat City Spear. That was the most annoying and painful. Now, the build itself, it's the problem I have with it is it's one of those items that is insanely strong, and I get chided for it in the YouTube comment section and stuff that like, oh, like the item's terrible. I'm like, no, the item is insane. Like stat wise, the item is insane in terms of
just in case.
Yes.
Just in case someone listening live or later on Spotify doesn't know what the Rat City Spear is, what's the real name of this?
It's Lament of the Lost Refuge. It is the community designed unique a while back, and the community did not get what they wanted, so they decided to troll instead, and we got this item.
Well, somebody out there, one person got what they wanted.
Yeah, exactly. The biggest problem I have with this item is it kind of ties it to one of the skills that I like the least in this patch in general, and that's of course Volcanic Orb. And that's because I think Volcanic Orb showcases every single thing that I think is wrong with the old skill design. Obviously, they fixed a lot of these problems. Just Volcanic Orb hasn't been changed in 3 years. So just remember that when I'm complaining about these things. A lot of these things have been fixed and changed. But specifically, the point dump thing. The point dump thing is so frustrating because I'll spend hours and hours and hours messing around with my points inside the Volcanic Orb tree, right? Like trying to figure out what I exactly want to do. Just at the end, just having nothing because, of course, Volcanic Orb is Volcanic Orb. Now, the spear itself, the spear gives like 150 flat void spell damage, and that is really strong specifically on mage because of the existence of Dark Shroud of Cinders giving you all of your increased damage for free by stacking fire auras. If this was on any other skill other than Volcanic Orb, if this was on like maybe Meteor, I guess, or I don't know, Ice Barrage, or like any other skill, it'd have been an insane unique. But the fact that it's on Volcanic Orb is the main reason why it's kind of like in the dumpster. And I hope that Volcanic Orb eventually gets the love it deserves.
Surely it'll get changed.
Yeah, but that was the most frustrating change because I spent 50,000 channel points to make you play it, and I had to drop it. I'm the one that had to drop it. So, of course, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll do it. And I sacrificed all of my free time. Raein knows he was there the whole time.
Yeah,
wasn't it fun?
It was fun. It was fun though. Multiplayer's fun.
Yeah, and
I wasn't playing it, so it was even more fun.
And watching, listening to Dread complain. That's a lot of fun. I like that.
The reason I enjoy the spear so much is it kind of like encourages a quote unquote unique playstyle where you're like moving instead of using teleport skills and stuff like that for mobility, and it felt amazing. I really enjoyed the playstyle. I just didn't enjoy having to micromanage placing my Volcanic Orb on rares to watch them instantly die, or if I accidentally miss it by like a micron, they like take like no damage. I love that. It's wonderful. But yeah, like the mana regen on it, like all of it is great. One day when Volcanic Orb is a good skill, it'll be great.
Is there anything at all that you could possibly do with that spear other than Volcanic Orb?
You can do Fire Aura stuff, but it's really frustrating because the biggest Fire Aura node, the one that gives you like 10 stacks of Fire Aura on Surge, guess what? It removes all your corrupted heraldry stacks because it's a movement skill. So it has anti-synergy with the Fire Aura setup, sadly. I learned that very quickly. Raein was like telling me about it. I'm like, no, I'm going to try it. And then I realized it. I'm like, oh, wow, this is terrible.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about the spear. The spear's a good item. It gives good stats. It gives kind of almost too good stats because it's trying to fix a really bad skill. And I feel like when you add an item like that to the game without actually changing Volcanic Orb, you're just adding a time bomb to the game. Because now in the futures, they're going to have to rework Volcanic Orb. It's going to get changed eventually. There's no way it stays like this forever. And it's probably going to be a good skill afterwards. And then the spear is going to exist, and it's going to be kind of breathing down their neck the whole time saying, hey, if you give that too many damage numbers, I'm going to break the entire freaking game wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So
actually, bonus topic. bonus thing I hate, real quick, while we're at this. I'm already tired of it. They started it this patch, and I'm already tired of it. Okay.
Wait. Pause. Wait. Rain, do you know what he's going to complain about?
He knows. He knows
what
exactly
is he
what I'm gonna
already
complain
tired
about.
of after 1 week of playing?
Is it leveling new characters?
No, that was
Really?
fine. No, that was fine. That was actually easier than last patch. Like having someone boost you, that's amazing. No, the problem. Stop introducing us two-handed uniques, like two-handed like uniques like spears and all that, and like the shadow beacon and all that, but not like Curse of Perseverance too with the rework, and stop giving us not giving us base crit. It's so frustrating on them. Like not like I don't want to run a prismatic gaze on every single build I play.
I think you're supposed to use Singularity with that thing. Yeah.
I mean,
non-crit
if you want to
Strike
do that,
with non-crit Devouring Orb. I think that's the way to go.
I mean, no, you just go Abyssal Echoes, but that was boring. But like, you could do that, but then have fun with that. But yeah, that was the most frustrating thing about playing this build and the Shadow Beacon build was trying to get crit chance on the spear and like on the weapons was the most annoying part because it was like. The build is nigh unplayable without that crit chance because otherwise you're going to have no crit. And if you're not playing crit in last Epoch, if you're trying to play a hit build, you're kind of, unless you're Raein, then you do some weird stuff. But still,
you need a very good reason to not go crit.
And I really, really enjoy this because it's the perfect example. It's like the perfect, like perfect time for me to start complaining about crit versus non-crit. Because these items want you to go non-crit, but non-crit doesn't exist as an archetype, so these items are worse as a consequence.
I wanna interject real quick. So I love complaining about crit because like the dichotomy of non-crit and crit with like hit-based builds is something that I loved harping on with the introduction of Singularity. The numbers just aren't big enough. You have to have a Singularity of at least 18% from 8 to 20 for it to be even the same as a crit build that just doesn't have any crit chance on it. It's so bad in terms of the return on investment. Yeah, we absolutely need either things like Elemental Overload that give you payoffs for being non-crit that are more widely accessible, things that let you crit anyways. Looking at you, what are those gloves called? The void things. But the point is, you absolutely need more options. You said Raein is playing non-crit builds? Raein, what's that all about?
So I was... the situation, I wouldn't say I'm playing non-crit builds. It's more like I'm playing builds that can't get crit, and I throw in a Singularity until I can find some way to force them to crit.
Go on.
Like Singularity is a good. Like if I'm playing something with, let's say, the Volcanic Orb Spear, the new one. If I'm playing that, I'm not going to get crit until much later on in my gearing. I'm going to need to put in like a Locket of the Forgotten Knight along with maybe a Prismatic Gaze, and then just get some crit chance because the items don't give increased crit either, so you need to make up for that somewhere too. So during that transition point, I'll just say, sure, 20% more damage. I'll just throw in a Singularity for a couple levels, and then I'll actually fix my crit later.
Oh, I was referring to the Judgment build.
Yeah, the Judgment build was kind of one of those cases. Is another one of those cases where like I will go crit eventually on that, but getting the crit is really rough on that when you're unarmed for like the melee hit. It's just
another reason why you should just ignore the hit part and just go to the Consecrated Aura.
I've only heard of people playing the spell dot with those Judgment gloves. I'm glad somebody tried it. Raein, good, congratulations, good on you. Probably doesn't compare.
It was.
I'm happy he did it for me.
It does technically outscale the aura eventually if you get to like 150 attunement. Then the initial hit will actually deal more damage than the entire ground will combined over its entire duration. But you need to get to that point.
You could just use the class that doesn't exist and get some crit vulnerability scaling, and you'll just do just fine. It's just a multiplayer build, Raein.
Do we need crit vuln on unique items or on gear somewhere?
That would break the game.
You think so?
It would break the game. It would break the game
somewhere.
Because like it depends on where, but I'm pretty sure it would break the game if we got crit vuln somewhere that was like repeatable and actually usable, like the crit vuln inside Marksman.
So Blade Dancer has crit vuln right now, and Blade Dancer is terrible. It's just
Blade Dancer's dead. Yes, he's dead.
Yep.
Woo!
So Crit Bomb
I'm fine.
clearly cannot carry Blade Dancer, so
No, it's just the problem. Well, the problem is with Rogue is it's balanced around all of its skills. Everything about it is balanced around the fact that it's always going to be critting no matter what. So it actually is worse because of crit vulnerability existing, right? Because you can, like, if you're playing a Rogue build and like you don't have crit vuln or whatever on your gear and all that, you're not critting. It feels terrible. It feels awful if you're not critting. So it's just kind of like,
for people who aren't in on every single joke that I make, Blade Dancer is good. Blade Dancer is very good. We're just making jokes.
yeah. I mean, Raein and I have an inside joke. We've been playing with a Marksman for a while, ED8, and we keep joking that he doesn't exist because, like, Marksman doesn't exist as an archetype because of the detonating arrow dagger. Now it's like Blade Dancer, but Marksman.
How do you like that thing?
I'll let Raein
I
explain.
tried it, and you probably couldn't pay me to try it right now. With the animation being what it is, I probably wouldn't try it if somebody paid me. I'm sure it does damage, though. I'm sure it's great.
It does damage. It's just the quality of life. Okay, so the problem with it, Perry, is imagine you take a ranged skill like detonating, right? But you make it into like a basic attack. That's essentially like what's going on. So like you have
I
to
tried
uses the
melee
default
detonating arrow as
damage.
well. I have 2 complaints, and I think if either one got addressed, I'd be happy. So detonating arrow has an attack speed penalty baked into it, even in the bow version. Like, it doesn't say it anywhere unless you look it up on like Tunk Labs, for example.
I didn't even know that.
It attacks slower than almost every other skill in the game, which is awkward, and I wish it didn't exist. And maybe the melee version shouldn't have that. Maybe the bow version shouldn't have that. So if either that changed or the range of the basic attack itself, I've walked up to monsters as melee detonating arrow and missed.
I think it should
it's
just share the
very
same
short range.
animation as puncture. If it just shared the same animation as like puncture, it'd be fine.
It'd be great. Sure. Yeah, it could hit things.
It wouldn't even be bad. It would make up for the fact that you have to play a marksman for it.
It is cool though. It is pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's
like
a good
that it
unique.
exists.
It needs to not be like, it needs to literally not be like shank levels of range.
It's
like,
so melee. Like, come on, man. Give me a break.
I mean, if it's going to be shank levels of range, it just needs to have like maybe double the damage it has now, and then I might actually play it, right?
Sounds good to me. The damage is pretty okay.
Yeah, the damage
Listen,
is good, though, yeah.
I wanted to mention something. So something we touched on earlier was the change of ailments. So ailment effects got replaced with penetration with ailments. And I do need to give a shout out to someone else that we've had on the podcast before. This is Arborist. Arborist had an idea that I hadn't even considered. Now that we have physical penetration with shadow daggers, you can actually kinda maybe justify playing a bleed shadow dagger build, which is never something that you would have considered in the past.
Wait, you can't apply ailments with shadow daggers, can you?
Shadow daggers are a hit. They can apply
Yeah,
ailments
but
and they can
they're
bleed.
an
But I would
Oh,
check it.
okay.
So now that you have physical penetration with shadow daggers, the physical penetration gets inherited by whatever ailments they apply. And like, I didn't think about that until Arborist started telling me about his idea.
The problem is like you get so much phys pen as rogue anyways for bleed.
Exactly, yeah. Like you could just do bleed lethal mirage and apply 100 stacks of bleed that tick the boss down in like 3 seconds and you're done. You know?
But it's new. New is interesting. Fight me.
It is. Fair enough.
Wait, are you saying that shadow daggers are dead though? I thought that's what the
I thought Blade Dancer was
moniker was,
terrible.
yeah.
It's a garbage class.
Shadow daggers
Yeah.
are not dead. Don't let
Wait,
anybody
shadow daggers have been like OP for so long now, and they finally got the nerf that they needed, and all of a sudden the class is dead.
And they're still extremely good, by the way. They're like still better than every single other option for most rogue builds.
Oh, you know what? Raein, we're stupid. Wait, we're stupid. You know how like I was
All right,
saying,
that's
like,
the end of the podcast. Thanks everyone for being here.
No, you know how we were saying, oh yeah, like the worst thing in the patch? We have a collective hate for this one change. Enemy ailment scaling. You want to go into that, Raein?
So I'm not sure what's going on. I think there might be some bugs or latency related things going on with this. There have been conversations with this with EHG that have occurred, and we're not entirely sure what's going on yet. But some specific damage over times, and especially poison on enemies, feel a little weird. And that's kind of, yeah.
So poison's base damage got doubled. So like early game leveling with poison is better than it used to be. Like low stacks of poison is better than it used to be. But poison tornadoes, when they tick me, deal a ton of damage, even if I'm capped on poison res.
We were teased on this too during the Steel Mage Zizaran stream too. We were teased on this because we saw it happen too.
I noticed Steel almost died at like two stacks of poison in like half a second in the hardcore thing, whatever they were doing.
Remember when you
immediately went to ask them, just like, hey, that looks kind of crazy. Please tell me you're going to fix that. And they were like, yeah, we're going to look at it.
Yeah, remember when you were carrying me through the Lightless Arbor? You want to explain that?
I have an analogy for Lightless Arbor. Has anybody here ever played a FromSoft game? And have you ever been to a poison swamp? That's Lightless Arbor right now.
Yeah, so essentially, right now, for some reason, we don't know why, there hasn't been any confirmations, but it has been a lot of community members have come out, and we've all kind of collectively decided that for some reason, ailments on enemies are kind of spooky.
It feels like something's wrong.
And you must be wondering, Dread, well, didn't the entire community, like as a whole, just not run poison res for like the longest of time now? Yeah, but we still built poison res this patch, and it's still spooky.
Yeah,
and you want to talk
140% poison resistance and was dying to poison in like fractions of a second. It was kind of insane. I was overcapped for the shred.
You want to talk about Deer Boy? Deer Boy's there too.
You mean the horse?
Yes, the horse. Yes.
Pardon?
Talk about the horse.
Herod.
Oh, sure. Elk Daddy.
I call him a horse because I can call my abomination Glue Factory and it feels good.
Good lord. Okay.
His aura seems a little weird at the moment, basically, is the short of it. The cold aura, it ticks really quick. It also applies cold shred, if anybody didn't know. Fun fact. And it tends to kill me before I can even see it. So it's good. I think this might be a latency related thing, though, and I'm sure that'll get dealt with in the future. And there's lots of ways they can deal with it. But I think what happens here is like you get kind of like a fake tick or two before you actually see the visual appear. And then you take a third tick and you look at your health bar and you're like, oh my God, why am I almost dead? And you freak out because you've actually been in there for 3 times as long as you think you have because of either latency or whatever. So I think it's it's something that will get dealt with, I'm sure, eventually.
Mr. Horsey Dude is definitely one of the higher death counts for my characters right now.
I want to throw my complaint out there. Like I don't want to spend too much time talking about bugs because there are a lot of bugs.
Yeah.
But I die all the time to Rain of Dragons, to the Bone Dragon guy. He's got this invisible. I think his breath is invisible, or like it's hitting the two big
pools. You know the bleed pools on the ground. Some of those can be invisible right now.
And bigger. No, but I've played this game. I know where the bleed pools are supposed to be. I'm standing in the middle of nothing, and I take so much damage. It's not percent health damage.
It's latency.
If it's latency, you got to fix it because that is unbearable in hardcore.
It seems to be related to the horse dude. That's like all of this seems to be like there's something going on with the ailment stuff, and it's just crazy. Like it's like before this patch, like it was just this patch too. It's insane. And like I don't know why it feels like it does, but it does.
I want to
maybe
force
we're all
us
collectively crazy.
I want to force us to move on to a new topic of conversation.
Of course.
And we started out talking about like our favorite changes and our least favorite changes. We talked a little bit of ailments as well. I want to say like what's like a new build that you've been playing? Like a new build that's enabled by a unique item or a change to an existing item or like a bug fix, new skills. What's something brand new that people can do in this patch that they've never been able to do before?
I'll let you go first, Raein.
There are a lot of new things in this patch to play with. Like there are a lot of things. I mean, I guess the most general way to put it is like we're in multiplayer now. You don't need to have a build that can play all the content in the game anymore. You can have a build that's just really good at running people through dungeons. You can have a build that's just really good at pushing corruption, but can't do the timeline boss. And now you can group up with somebody who has a different specialized build and do that as well. So like a lot of builds that were held back by the fact that you don't have the ability to get through, maybe you can't clear monolith echoes fast enough, but you're really good at killing the boss. That would be a big problem for a build, but it's not so much a big problem anymore because you can just go find somebody playing Smite Hammerden to clear all the echoes for you. And, and then you can help them by killing their bosses in 3 seconds.
Maybe you can't do T4 Jurla and you need to like make this legendary. You can just ask someone else for help.
So the amount of specialist builds that kind of get opened up by just being able to party is really huge, and it's kind of like mind-blowing. It's really hard to wrap my head around like how many things you could get away with now. But there's
it's very explosive.
Use friends. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say the build that that's become like my fan favorite already. This patch, just by playing it a little bit more, is definitely Ghost Maker. Just anything around Ghost Maker, specifically making Infernal Shade like actually do damage. I don't understand why we need to slap a 700% more damage modifier to make a skill work, but this is a very satisfying way of doing it. So if you don't know what Ghostmaker does, is the most important part of it for this build is you get 60 to 70% more damage per wraith you own for Infernal Shade against rares and unique enemies and bosses. And it can scale all the way up to like 700% more damage or something stupid like that. And it is absolutely insane to go through a mono, cast your Infernal Shades, watch it like take a second to kill like trash mobs, but then one tick on like a rare and just like you instantly kill the rare like in one tick. It is interesting way of playing the game where like your clear is like okay, but your bossing is like really, really good. And but also as well, you also get to summon wraiths on kill with the dagger with Infernal Shade, or just in general, and then you get to cast Infernal Shade on the wraith's kill as well, so you can use the dagger for different builds. You don't have to just use it for what I used it for, right?
So
like
it's not
I
just
used
one,
it to make Infernal
it's not just
Shade.
one build.
Yes.
You can do like a bunch of different stuff.
And I really like that kind of unique design where like you get to use it for multiple different builds. There is a melee wraith build out there, thanks to the new animations and the way they feel. There's a new melee wraith build that uses Ghostmaker, and they will apply themselves their own Infernal Shades for them, and it feels amazing.
It's pretty sweet. It kind of sounds like the opposite of the Rat City Spear, Torment of the Lost Refuge, or whatever.
Well, the thing is the problem is the Rat City Spear doesn't say 700% more damage, and Infernal Shade was in an okay spot. The problem with Infernal Shade is it's meant for quote unquote clear, so it's like let's just give it away to do single targets so you don't feel bad. The problem is Raein, flesh. Let's just say remember like day one when we had to like turn off our profanity filters and stuff? Like we call those guys the profanity filter. We just like leave the monolith and come back in.
Because you're gaining 700% more damage against rare unique monsters, and profane flesh are never counting as rare monster. So you just
said
have no
that they were
damage.
going to fix that. So
cool.
They said
sounds
they were
interesting.
Fix that eventually. Yeah.
I always hate it. There's nodes at Glacier that you pick up. Gives like more damage against rare unique monsters, and then you just like all of your damage falls off a cliff.
I mean, that's why the sword doesn't work right now. The Aurelis, that's why nobody plays it right now. It's because of the existence of profane fleshes and stuff.
To be fair, there's other reasons that I don't use that item, but okay.
I mean, but like that's the main reason why nobody cares about it. But otherwise, it would be a cool unique. But yeah, that's my favorite build so far. There's a lot of other ones that I like so far, but that's my favorite one. What's your favorite build so far? Yeah,
so I just finished recording some stuff for this. It's going to sound like I'm shilling my own YouTube channel, which I am. So when I was a brand new player and I used Hungering Souls for the very first time, I thought it would be so good. I was like, my brain is so big. I'm going to build Poison Chance, and then all the Hungering Souls are going to hit the same monster, and they're all going to apply. Turns out it doesn't do that. I thought it did when I was a brand new last Epoch player. I thought it shotgunned. I thought it was super strong. It was like, okay, but it didn't do anything what I thought it did. So now we have an updated unique item. It's a Curse of Perseverance. It allows your Hungering Souls to shotgun, and it's awesome. It's so good. Like, you can play crit with it. You can play ignite with it. You can do anything with it. It's so cool. I love it. Yeah. The animation isn't cool enough yet. It still fires them like normal, all side by side. It's supposed to fire them all in sequence. So I'm looking forward to that being bug fixed so that I can just look at the build and see.
I like really it cool. Because it's the same kind of concept that Ghostmaker is, where it just enables more archetypes to exist. And one thing I like about the Hungering Souls change in general is that its entire skill tree got changed, and it went from like so this is a little bit of like a semi rant, but I really like what they're doing with Lich specifically, where they're making Rip Blood and Hungering Souls and all these other skills like Infernal Shade all stand on their own. So one day when Death Seal and Lich form get nuked from orbit, we actually still have a class to play. I think that's a very smart decision to do.
No, they're not going to do that. Surely they wouldn't do that.
I mean, there's a reason why they're making them so strong now. Is because they have to stand on their own.
They're buffing Lich because Lich needed buffs.
Yeah, that's totally.
I agree. Yeah. Lich needs buffs.
Lich, come on.
Like, but yeah, like the Hungering Souls, 40% more damage, like global dot. That's insane. I love it.
That's such a cool change. You're talking about, I found that really interesting. Yeah. So there's a new node. We can talk about this for a second. There's a new node in Hungering Souls. It gives you more global damage over time, so it applies to the rest of your build against enemies who are possessed. But per point, it scales the duration. So if you dump all your points in there, the buff lasts for 40 seconds.
No, that's a visual thing. It's 8.
Even if the buff did last for 40 seconds, it's only against possessed enemies, and possessed lasts 1.5 seconds. Possessed only lasts
like 2.5 seconds or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a bug. Sadly, we tried that. I saw that.
I got one more interesting thing for you, and this is something that I've actually already heard from devs about. If you read the alt text on that node, it says that if Hungering Souls is converted to fire, then it works against enemies hit with spreading flames.
Yes, I remember that.
You basically don't have any way of applying spreading flames as a Lich unless you're using unique items. So in the future, the devs have said they'd like to make that a little bit more self-contained. They'd like for Lich to have some kind of way, maybe an Infernal Shade, maybe on Dread Shade somewhere,
Well, maybe one day Spreading Plague becomes this ailment that we can actually use in skill and function. Oh my God. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna derail the podcast again, but this needs to be talked about. EHG needs to stand for their crimes. Stand trial. What did you do to my boy Serpent Strike? What did you do? Raein, you wanna pile on the evidence here?
Well, yeah. It's not a good skill anymore. I don't really mean the evidence is go play it and suffer and then see. But seriously, it's
is the poison dead? Is crit dead? Is frostbite dead?
It's okay.
Frostbite's fine. Frostbite's fine.
But, okay, so Serpent Strike was a skill that kind of was carried by one node, and that was the node that gave you global increased damage over time whenever you use it.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the skill was kind of a joke. So I guess maybe they thought that the skill was okay, and then they removed that one node that was OP or something, but they didn't add anything else to the tree to kind of make it like...
no longer get a stacking buff to your increased damage over time?
No, you don't get... Oh, you get dodge still. So the problem is... Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
I'm happy if it's gone. That shouldn't be there. That shouldn't be the reason the skill's used, but there needs to be a different reason to use the skill that isn't just, well, I was forced to because I picked Stormblade by accident.
Yeah, so you know how like Serpent Strike is like a poison skill? Right? What if I told you in its entire tree, there's actually no poison scaling whatsoever? Like the ailment poison, there's no poison scaling. I think there's one node that can give you 24% chance to apply poison. That's it. That's all you get.
Surely there's like generic more damage modifiers.
I mean, okay,
there is one.
Right, yeah.
There's the one that has a cooldown that like you have to get stacks and then you'll do it. That's
like
can apply
once
to
every
poisons.
5 seconds
However,
or something like that.
You have to stop attacking for like a couple seconds to gain that buff, and you're playing a poison build. Good luck.
Huh.
So what they did was they removed all of that scaling stuff and they added a new ailment. It's like a giga poison or quote unquote giga poison. And it's like 150 flat damage and you can scale it through a lot of different means, but it only stacks once. And the problem with that is like it doesn't actually scale to the point where it should be. Like if that worked, if that's what the skill did, I would be fine with that. It would be interesting to play a Serpent Strike build where you didn't have to scale 600% increased attack and cast speed. But the problem is like that is not the case. It's great while leveling though, I've heard. But yeah. So like I like just take some time and just read through the tree and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. Although Crit Swarmblade got buffed.
Like
Frostbite
melee damage crit Swarmblade.
Yes, that got buffed. You can play that. It also gets a free lunge with its attack, which is cool.
The lunge looks awesome.
It's a little bugged right now, but it's cool.
It reminds me of a game that you and I have played before, Ghost Lord.
Yes.
Do you remember the lunge that the melee daggers had in that game? It was incredible. It felt so good. I saw a Twitch clip of Vision GL playing with Serpent Strike, and like his character kept lunging forward. I want to play that skill. Apparently, I need to play crit. Sure.
I mean,
got it.
well, no, you just whatever you do, just don't actually play poison with it. And the problem is like that's the point. And with aspect of the Viper getting taken out and shot out back, finally came.
I haven't read that.
It's penetration now. Didn't you like 700% increased penetration? Come on, Perry, get with the memo. Doesn't that sound great?
But it still gives 100 poison chance and it still has attack speed on the same node.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but it's not the same.
But you can just get all that penetration for using Salt the Wound instead. Or I guess now you don't run Salt the Wound, but then that's
like Wingguard or something. Wingguard's good.
I mean, but what I'm trying to say is though.
Okay.
Actually, sorry, Wingguards conflicts with Serpent Venom.
But you're not going to play like poison Serpent Strike anymore. Like
gotcha.
Poison. You can play the ult ailment it gives. You can play Frostbite, which is pretty okay. You can play crit with Stormblade, or you could play like the Primal Serpent if you want to like go hate yourself. But like what I mean is like they took a poison skill and then they took out all the poison stuff from it. And it's like, oh, like it legitimately, it is a better Frostbite skill than it is a poison skill right now.
When you say Frostbite, is that like I have to use Morditis' touch, or is this like is there a conversion?
No, there's nodes in the tree for
you do it for Stormblade, for Frostbite Stormblade. You'd use it.
Yeah, you wouldn't play this on Beastmaster. It's just Stormblade specifically, and it's just really weird and awkward. It's like when I saw the change, it was like one of the I don't know, it's one of the weirdest changes I've ever seen in this entire game. From playing it for 3 years, that is the one that like Raein was there when I saw it. It was ridiculous. Like
he started. There was tears. He was just crying. It was horrible.
It was my favorite skill, and now
you and I both like Serpent Strike a lot.
We love Serpent Strike, and it's like before, like sure it had that increased damage route, but at least it was usable then. Now it's just like maybe this will make them actually have to like fix Beastmaster at its core, I guess. But like still, it's just How much damage does the Serpent Venom do? Not enough in endgame. I can tell you that much.
Its base is 150 over 3 seconds. You can test that on the dummy,
which is really very high. Almost half as high. Wait. What's Doom? Doom's 400, isn't it?
Isn't Doom like 1200? Yeah, Doom stacks.
Stacks 3 times, but
I mean, you can try it. Go right ahead. It's just like it's just
interesting. All right, I had no idea.
There is one way to make it work, and it's as degenerate as you could possibly ever imagine, though.
What's the degenerate way of building Serpent Strike?
Specifically, it's Serpent Venom to make that work. So, you know how enemies can get crit avoid? So you can't crit them. Well, if you can get to 100% crit avoid, you can use the node in Serpent Venom that makes it scale with your final melee critical strike chance and Gambler's Fallacy, because now you've never crit recently because they have 100% crit avoid. and then suddenly the Serpent Venom does like barely enough damage to play. It's really good.
So if you can get the enemies to never receive a crit,
Yep, you can still scale your crit chance without getting the 50% less crit
and
from that fallacy.
Singularity doesn't work because Singularity sets your crit chance to 0?
Yep.
Wow.
And it also doesn't work for the one attack thing because the Serpent Venom seems like it reads your crit chance out after you've crit with the Serpent Strike that applied it. So that means the 50% less applies from the Gambler's Fallacy applies to the effect that you get from that. It's still really bad, but you could technically do that, and it's kind of stupid. They could fix it.
They could just make the number. They could just like. I'll be honest. Like I'm pretty sure if they just made the numbers bigger, I don't know.
The bottom node is more damage with Serpent Venom per stack of poison on the enemy, but only when the enemy is at high health. If that was just not only at high health, it would probably be okay.
That's very strange.
It's like stacking it up, and you're like, okay, I'm going to stack up lots of poisons, and that takes time. And then by the time you get a lot of poisons, it's already beyond that threshold, and the node does nothing. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most confusing changes of the patch so far.
Let me throw in a new topic of conversation here. We talked about updates. So we talked about brand new builds that you can play and like a couple ideas there. What about like updates to existing builds? Is there a build that like was pretty okay and now it's absurd, or like a build that has new toys, a build that you like want to play in a different way than before?
Icicle Marksman.
Yeah. ED8 was someone we were playing with, who's also a CT, had their bow mage character. They were running them for a while with regular detonating arrow setups that you kind of run, and eventually they decided I convinced them finally. They switched to using pure multi-shot, and we kind of realized that Umbral Blades can give you mana back now, so it's a really strong mana sustain skill for Rogue. And you can use that to basically not trivialize, but it's enough to make it so that using multi-shot as the only way to proc your icicles is actually sufficient to...
You get to play it the fun way again.
Yeah.
Also, multi-shot got its mana reduced too.
Yeah.
I kind of like the detonating arrow thing.
You can still use it. And it's like...
do it.
Yeah.
Multi-shot's just disgusting.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Like I just like
been discussing this entire time.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
I've played
multiplayer. The
multi-shot before.
Like
I really enjoyed it. I know Carve, the one of the QA people from EHG, really enjoys multi-shot too. So just like multi-shot, that's your only way of proccing the bow?
You don't need the reason why you use detonating arrows because multi-shot chugs mana like it chugs, and you also it's kind of weird, but now with the mana changes and all that. With Umbral Blade buffs, who would have thought Umbral Blade buffs coming out of my mouth? But it's fun. It's definitely a way of playing it. I'm playing it on a Blade Dancer right now with the Umbral Blades thing. You know how like you couldn't run that +2 Shadow node without some investment on the Shadow Cascade setup? You can do that now with Umbral Blades.
So Umbral Blades, it got to change where the first throw costs mana and the next two don't cost mana. How are you using Umbral Blades to generate mana?
You completely ignore that part.
So there's the node for recall and shift. That node was kind of like a meme before, but nobody ever really ran it. But it's always been interesting. So the node for recall and shift now gives you 2 mana per blade recalled when you shift.
Yeah. So
you can throw a lot of blades, by the way.
That's pretty good.
And what you do is you use the node inside Umbral Blades that drops a blade down when you use a shadow. So every single time that I do the Sync Strike plus Shadow Cascade plus Shift, I put down 4 blades and then I consume them. And I get 8 extra mana. Now that must not sound like much. But that's 8 mana per attack. And over a long period of time, that is a lot of extra mana you get to play with. And that means less affixes you need on gear. Like for instance, on my current Shadow Cascade setup right now that I'm playing, you only need like 1 tier 5 affix of the what is it called, the Sync Strike mana efficiency, and you're good to go. That's all you need.
So how are you generating shadows on your bow build for the bow mage character?
Well, you don't use. So what you do is basically you just occasionally throw out some Umbral Blades. You can use like the shift node to generate one every now and then, but you occasionally just throw some Umbral Blades into a corner and then shift, and you're fine.
Yeah,
you just throw 1, 2, 3, then dash.
If you had like 300 mana.
You had
300 mana and you cast like a few times and then shift, you'd be back at 300 mana. That's how many blades you're throwing out. It's insane.
You might not get back to I'm not sure if you get back to 300.
It's a lot.
I don't want to exaggerate too much. Like it's not.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's not like a broken amount of mana sustain. It's like fairly reasonable, but it's a lot.
It's better than using Flurry.
Exactly, it's a lot better than having to use Flurry or Puncture for mana. You don't have to hit an enemy with it. You just kind of get it back. It's a lot less ridiculous.
It's a lot more fun on Blade Dancer when you can automate it.
Yeah,
I believe that. That's sweet. Okay, I'm into it.
Yeah, Umbral Blade buffs. Who would have thought?
So regarding updates to existing builds, I'm just going to talk about the build that I'm playing currently. I was playing before the podcast began today. Yes. There's a build out there that to me it seems like a meme, but it's actually really good. And that is using the totem pop for Thorn Totem. And so as soon as you're casting your Thorn Totems, if you cast beyond your limit, they start exploding over and over. And it turns out the explosion's a really good way of scaling damage. So we've been trying 2 different ways of doing it now. There's a cold conversion, which you probably want to do for crit, because if you're playing a druid, which you ought to be, you get a bunch of extra cold penetration from the druid tree. And then you could try the frostbite thing. I don't think the frostbite version of this totem pop scales nearly as well as the crit, but you get to use Serpent's Milk. And putting on 1 Serpent's Milk and having extremely good damage for a very long time, it doesn't scale that well, but the floor of the build is very high. You just get 200% chance. You get to mitigate the downside of using Serpent's Milk and just play Frostbite for a while. It's been a lot of fun poking around with this.
Yeah, that's. I'm still surprised that node remained unscathed. I like how Serpent Strike got all of its damage scaling removed, but the totem node is just fine.
Oh, do you mean Nightshade Briar? The more damage with Thorn hits?
Yes.
It has a cap. It's only.
Is it a cap now?
It's only 20% more damage.
That's so much better. Thank you.
So it's only 120% more damage for 1 point.
Because I've been looking into the totems, and they look very interesting when they actually, like, when Storm Totem gets fixed specifically. Right now, there's a bug with Storm Totem. You know, like the area, it's making it so the area that they hit in is a larger area or whatever, but like it's just supposed to make the individual lightning bolts hit in a larger area, so there's more overlap.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a new node on Storm Totem. What's the node? The more damage per what? What is it, Raein?
For shock chance?
It gives you flat
damage per shot.
Flat lightning damage on the totem per shock chance. Yeah, on you. Yeah. You can scale a lot of that. So it's like
stuff like
you
that.
get like 60 flat lightning for it, which makes you don't have to use the crow like for everything anymore. It's nice.
Love it.
Maybe one day they'll increase the duration of upheaval totem so it's actually playable.
I do want to give Thorn Totem one more shout out. There's a new node that just got added to it. It has each Thorn Totem only shoots 1 projectile, but it shoots with 150% increased cast speed and some extra accuracy on it as well. I've seen Rhodey playing a pretty convincing version of it. Looks very, very strong. And then we've seen Hunter. Hunter's the CT who created the B unique item in the game. He's also been playing it and it looks really good. So if you like Thorn Totem, it's got updated visuals. It's got new ways to play it. It's pretty cool.
I played with it a bit while leveling, and I will say them reducing the projectiles and all that, but making them more smart. It helps a lot while leveling. Before, like you'd use Thorn Totem and you're just like, why am I even wasting my mana?
Just kind of hope that
and now it actually feels amazing while leveling. They've done a good job on that. And it just looks like a skill that actually, other than exploding it, you can actually play the skill now. And that's fun. Like playing a Werebear with Thorn Totem now, plus the vines and all that, Vine Bear, that must be really fun right now.
Is Vine Bear, like using the vines as primary source of damage, playing a Werebear, is that still a thing with the change to Garden of Rage?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you don't care. You weren't using that much mana anyways in like you were just like mauling every so often. You weren't using that much rage at all.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's more of a change to like Cold Out Werebear, but Cold Out Werebear got a fat 35% more damage modifier on top of another fat 40% more damage modifier. So it's fine that we have to use the amulet.
Cold Out Werebear is actually looking better than before.
Cold Out Werebear at least has double the amount of damage that it had before. They like they like the buff stick. All you have to use is that rinky dink amulet now, and it's like whatever. Who cares?
All right,
It has
Raein,
low OP.
Raein, same question to you then. What about like updates to existing builds?
A bomb.
Yeah, A-bomb's in a pretty interesting spot. So they kind of decided that the stomp on A-bomb, it used to be like an earthquake aftershock, right? And AoE is kind of small on those. But then they decided, but what if we just made it the full earthquake instead? So now it covers like half the screen and it's amazing.
It is
has a
so
0.5
it's
second
an
cooldown.
experience. Playing
And you
with
can
an
skip.
A-bomb character in your party at like 500 corruption, it's an experience.
Yeah, it's quite entertaining to watch the big boy just run around like wiping out, entire packs and their families and everything
Yeah.
else near them with like a single stomp. It's quite
What I
something.
like about Necro in general right now is they're slowly getting it to the point where like it's not necessarily a niche option anymore. Like it's more casual friendly. I still don't think it's like 5 minion casual friendly unless you never want to touch empowered monoliths ever. But like in general, it feels very casual friendly now.
It sounds like what you're saying. Like as long as you're not just skeleton archers and skeleton mages and zombies and like a bunch of random stuff.
Yeah, as long as
Okay.
you're actually playing an actual build, like Necro this is the best Necro has ever been. Even like with all the changes, everything, just in terms of usability, just the skeletal mage change alone. Like that's so good. Like
You mean the
it's just-
convocation movement skill, right?
Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
like I don't know how to like it's a world of difference. And then like with A bomb actually having a reason to not play the infinite duration version, where like you actually get AoE with the stomp. Like I could see myself having to resummon A bomb. Don't play it during the campaign right now. But Abomination like actually feels like as though there's more than one way. The swipe got buffed, like the Soul Reave got buffed. Like it actually feels good to play it outside of the infinite duration scaling one. And like Bone Golem, like speaking of MVPs of the patch, Bone Golem. Oh my god, Bone Golem.
You were telling me about the fire stuff where it consumes skeletons.
I want to tell you about the the blood one first. Rain, you want to explain the blood one and why it's so OP?
Do you like ball lightning? Good.
I know you like ball lightning. It's great.
Everybody loves ball lightning.
Yeah.
Well, imagine if your bone golem could spam ball lightning like every second or two with enough cooldown investment, and imagine if that ball lightning did a lot of damage, and it also looked like the bone golem just kind of like throwing a ball, like literally.
Now imagine if also as well
you.
that ball light. So people were confused when I made the support necro build guide recently that Rain helped me put together, and they're like, Dread, you don't have any regen. You don't have zombies. You don't have anything to sustain yourself. Why are you constantly at like 2k life like it's nothing? Like you're tanking hits and you're still sustaining. It's because of hunger inside of Bone Golem. So your hits restore health to you and into the golem. This effect restores an additional health per 2 vitality. So it gets up to 75. Wait, no, where is it? I know it's 65 base, and you also get an extra 1 per 2 vitality. So I had like 30 vitality, so I got like 15 extra on top of that. So it was like 80 per hit. That little ball lightning thing that can hit 3 enemies, and it like ticks like crazy. Like I was at 2k health and like 400 corruption with no defenses, no sustain other than like the bone golem, and like it is like move over zombie, like it's insane. Like you just throw a golem in your party, don't even have to touch it, just make sure it doesn't die, and like the health gain on hit thing, and it just keeps you alive the entire time.
What about bone golem as like a primary source of damage?
Oh, okay.
It's
so
good.
right
It fixed
now,
the AI basically.
Yeah, the AI looks amazing. Yeah.
So it has like basically whenever you give a minion a dash attack of any kind, it becomes much, much, much better in the AI department because it actually has options it can use rather than just trying to walk up and melee things like an idiot. So Bone Golem, first off, it uses animations from Werebear, which is pretty awesome. So it has like the rampage where it like kind of runs and like gallops forwards.
It
and it also has Yep. It also has
That's
mole.
adorable.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you get a chance, you need to watch the video.
Yeah, it's really adorable.
Got it. Got it.
So right now there's a bug with Bone Golem and Bone Curse and all that. So Retaliate is kind of off the shelf right now. But once they fix that, Retaliate's better than it's ever been. Like Retaliate in general. I was watching Jimji play it. He's playing a fixed quote unquote version of it. There's a bug going around. I don't want to like talk about the bug because it involves infinite loops of some kind, so I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, Retaliate's going to be amazing when it's fixed. And then the Infernal Shade Golem that we were talking about, the Infernal Shade, but like the Infernal Aura. So it does enough damage. If we're going to talk about like the most fair necromancer build ever, in quote unquote, like the Infernal Aura Golem is like the go-to there. It does like 200k ticks, but it's like having an RF Golem. It's great. It's amazing. 200k it's fun to play.
is fine.
Yeah, like
Not
that's
busted,
good enough.
Definitely
the clear makes up for it. The clear is
Gotcha.
amazing. He'll just walk through stuff. Things will die around it with the new AOE with new AI. It's great. And then of course you get to teleport it with you. Like everything about the Infernal Aura Golem is great. The only problem is Dreadshade targeting is still as bad as it has been. I wish I could just like click on like the character portrait of the Bone Golem and apply it to it or something like that. Like right now, Dreadshade just targets the nearest ally or whatever, and it's very buggy. But once they fix that and make Dreadshade targeting not annoying, that build will be amazing to play.
I like it.
It's fun. It's like it's on my list of builds I'm going to start.
Maybe.
The nicest thing about it is you get Bone Golem at like level like 10. You get Bone Golem like it's your third or fourth or fifth, I don't know, really early, and like you just pop the thing down and it starts hopping around like a happy little dog, and it's like all excited to see you, and then it goes up to the nearest pack of enemies and it jumps onto them and one shots all of them with a giant like slam. It's really funny to watch.
Enjoy Bone Golem when you actually play it.
I remember at the beginning of
just don't play the ice one.
I leveled with some other people, and I was running Bone Golem, just leveling with it. And they were just like, they were kind of just saying the entire time that they were kind of just mesmerized watching the thing run around and slap stuff because it was so adorable. They weren't even like paying attention.
It is so adorable.
It's now on my to-do list. I have to play the build. Got it.
It's an actual build. Like it's amazing. I love it. Cool. It's got a place in my heart now.
I've got one more topic. We're over an hour at this point. We're like an hour and 15 minutes or so. I've got one more thing that I want to sneak in at the end. I'm not too worried about how long this takes because I don't think there's much to say. Are there things you want to do now that we have both multiplayer and arena enabled? Is there something cheesy you want to try, like perma taunt with a bunch of decoy totems? What's something that you have on your to-do list?
Arena, I've heard from quote unquote sources. Arena is kind of a mess balance wise. Like, you know how like in a boss fight in multiplayer, you could just like come back in after you die when you're like killing a boss and you still get stuff. But just imagine that, but for arena.
Yeah,
so you can cheese it.
There is a little bit of a limit to that, as far as I understand. I haven't tried it myself, but I've heard that there is a limit to that to some degree. It's like I think you have to go to the next like set of waves or something before you can re-enter. So like if you die, you're out for like a couple waves. I think that's
still very cheesy.
There's a lot of cheese. Even just being in a party is just so strong for arena. There's so many ridiculous things you can do in a party. Like you could just have your Dreadshade bot sitting in the corner, spamming Dreadshades and giving you 60% more damage and like 100 flat and 100 pen for
a bunch of armor. So TLDR, if you want a fair and balanced arena experience, you're going to be forced into solo mode right now until they like do things. But the problem I have with it is if they start balancing skills and stuff around arena, it's going to start affecting skills in the actual game. Like for instance, support Necro right now is a fun build. We've been playing with it. Raein and I have been playing with it a bunch. We've been theorizing it and testing it and fixing it. It is insane, the offhand. But it takes a lot of investment. It's a lot of fun to play. But it would definitely be one of the first builds that gets chopped off once, like if they cared about scaling arena for a party. So it's like, the problem is we got to step back and ask ourselves, is this like a game that's supposed to be competitive like that, or is this supposed to be a fun game, right? It's like, are we going to start balancing the arena around like the game around arena, or are we going to start balancing it around the actual game, right? Because like, don't get me wrong, arena's fun, right? Don't get me wrong, but like, I don't think it should be what the devs focus all of their effort on, because it's going to like ruin the game.
So like if something's busted in co-op multiplayer arena, maybe you just leave it there.
Well,
Like,
yeah, like I think
if you want to do it,
deal
don't
with
have
that,
fun.
though. I think they can find ways to walk the middle
Yeah.
here. I think, like,
I think it
you
is
don't
too,
have to
but
balance solely around arena or solely around monoliths. I think once we have more leaderboards in the game, which I think they've said they've want to do a couple times now, as I recall, like if we get like corruption pushing leaderboards or something like that, there's going to be metas for arena and there's going to be metas for other things, and that's perfectly acceptable. That there are some things that are better than other things, because that's just how the game's going to work no matter what you do. So as long as I think like the really egregious stuff, I think is okay to tune down, but as long as they're not like too focused on trying to normalize the field, it should work out okay, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I just hope that they just don't go crazy, because like I said, like it's an ARPG after all, right? Like,
yeah, people will break the game no matter what you do. Yes.
Yeah,
You can't stop it.
In a way, that's the point. I want to break the game. I want to find bugs. I want to have something ridiculous happening. Eventually. Maybe not all the time, but eventually. Oh, cool. So we're just about an hour and 20 minutes. I think we're going to call it there. Made it through our topics, and we added in some extra conversations about skills that maybe I want to try out, maybe having a bone golem in my party for a change. Talked a lot about ailments as well and how those change. So, Raein, I gotta say, it's been nice talking to you. Today's my first time talking to you in person, so thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me here.
And Dread, thank you as always for being my co-host. Episode 21. We're going to have this up on YouTube and Spotify in the next couple days. So if you're looking for this after the fact, if you're not watching here live on Twitch, make sure you tell us where you're watching it on YouTube or Spotify, so we can make sure that we're giving you the best viewing, listening, consumption experience possible, because we want to make sure that you're having a good time too. So thanks for being here. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
that was fun.